Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. One of the original major things that attracted me to the game was the multiplayer, multi-crew plan for it. The idea of running around a ship, repairing it, manning the systems, repelling borders, and taking out waves of fighters and turrets. We have the pilot, turret, and remote sort of weapon operators in game at the moment and working to some extent. But what is there in any way of supporting gameplay coming? What else is coming in the future? What's needed to make multi-crew gameplay fun? And what other roles are there going to be on board a ship? I want to talk about some of that today, and I think it's important to have that conversation because CIG have stated now that with a lot of their developments and a lot of their mechanics, they're going to iterate and evolve them based on the community. It's not necessarily they have a big, greater plan. They do to some extent, there's some planning there, but a lot of the stuff they are aware that they're going to evolve quite a lot and get a lot more deeper gameplay from a lot of this sort of community feedback. It's heavily community driven is what I'm trying to get at, but let's talk about it some more. So, Star Citizen Alpha 3.7 brings in mission sharing, the ability for party members to share their missions with the rest of their group and share in the rewards when completed. It also has missions that are more focused on the sort of group level difficulty of gameplay. You're going to start to see more and more missions as we go further into the game that have higher difficulty levels and require you to group up to get a lot of people they're doing them together. The personal commodity system as well now allows players to gather and loot items. You can, as of 3.7, fill up the cargo hold of a ship with crates and lootables that you found and effectively give them to other players or work together to fill a ship together. Service beacons allow for players to create their own missions as well and request support, though I am hoping that we're going to get much more of a robust contract system in the future. Service beacons work quite well for distress beacons, though this needs to really have more players on a server to have that sort of multiplayer gameplay coming together. And I'm hoping that will allow for, things like people to come onto your ship and help repair your ship, stuff like that. Quantum enforcement as well is going to make having escorts more essential. That's going to be in 3.7, having people pull you out of quantum travel, prevent you from going into quantum travel. So there's maybe a lot more reasons to have a full crew in a ship, even on your hauling ship, potentially take escorts around with you. Lots more reasons to group up in 3.7. Multi-crew gameplay needs to be much better and have a lot more systems in place to make it fun, in my opinion. It kind of works. It has some stuff going on with it. Pilot. You can have a co-pilot controlling some of the systems, I suppose, and then obviously people controlling the weaponry on the ship. But we need a lot more. So feedback and instruction are incredibly important, and we know that there's some major improvements to basic multi-crew systems planned for Alpha 4.0 with multi-crew expanded roles. So they're adding the ability for pilots and turret gunners to receive and follow orders more effectively. Pilots will be able to receive instructions and view information in order to follow specific instructions, for example, moving to a designated area or quantum traveling to a specific point. Turret operators will be able to receive specific target designations from another player and track them independently of their own targets. This is integral for crews to be able to work together, and as a prerequisite as well, NPC crew and AI modules, as players need to be able to communicate what actions they want done to the crew, NPC or otherwise. It's important that important information is shared, or at least available, and you can see a lot of this at a glance when coordinating the crew, and they can do a lot of this by just improving the HUDs and making sure you can see what other people in your group and party have sort of locked onto. There are general HUD and cockpit and station improvements that are coming from patch to patch. A couple of important parts are planned for 3.8 as well. Improvements to the player cockpit experience, just refining that, making sure they've got more immersive interactions, redoing some of the MFDs, getting them into a much better place. They're also doing continued improvements to the HUD system to support advanced scanning and pinging features in 3.8 anyway, including the storing of results and interface to adjust the strength of scans. So some of those core ship features and improvements are going to give players a better multi-crew experience, more things to do on stations, have a much more refined experience. However, what is there actually to do for multi-crew ships beyond the pilot chair and gunnery? Well, not much at the moment, but a lot is planned, and I want to sort of talk a lot about what is, I think, some good ideas, although feel free to express your own. I certainly am just sharing my opinions here. They may very well be different sort of like opinions than yours, and that's fine. So for me, MultiCrew, to start with, needs to be as at least effective, if not more effective, than bringing another ship along. So I should want to have a co-pilot or an additional gunner rather than have another saber with me. Not in all circumstances, because there's going to be other factors too: suitability for ships for missions, the type of mission, range, cost of operating a ship. I just want to see the sort of balance where a fully crewed hammerhead is able to beat a small group of sabers relatively effectively. I want multi-crew ships to be rewarded for crewing those ships and crewing them well. This means that there has to be some form of skill and importance to tasks and ways of doing those things wrong and right, I suppose. Things to do in general. I don't really want to be bored waiting to do stuff. I want there to be fun things to do. Not all the time. A lot of stuff can be downtime or some busy work or whatever, but I do want things to be there for me to do on ship, rather than me waiting to do 3 minutes sort of like combat every 4 hours. Working together has to mean something as well, and should allow for great adventures. Multi-crew needs to be a better option typically than bringing your own ship, and missions need to fully allow for fully crewed ships to make bank, earn a lot of money if they run that mission well, if they do an encounter well. And there needs to be the difficulty of missions there. You need to be able to have a load of missions that you can go, this requires us to do this in a carrack, a multi-crewed carrack. That's the most effective way of doing this mission. Multi-crew ships need to have a high time to kill as well. So larger ships, they need higher times to kill. It's something that CIG have previously talked about. At the moment, ships have artificial health pools, but they are moving to a physical damage system and physicalized components. We will see ships taking damage and losing some efficiency of their systems rather than just boom and dead. So they'll lose functionality, they'll have some of their systems disabled. It's going to be based on where they're hit, based on what systems actually physically get damaged. And you're going to be able to repair those systems, reroute power, react to that damage. You can't expect players to repair parts of a ship in combat if combat only lasts a few seconds, nor can you expect players to be able to get to the escape pods and that sort of stuff if a ship just implodes. Combat needs to last longer and be, at least to some extent, about attrition and strategic encounters, targeting particular subsystems, sort of like knocking bits out of a ship so that you can, use a mantis to prevent it from going into quantum, and then take out its thrusters, and then board it. Stuff like that. There needs to be lots of that sort of gameplay going around, because otherwise there's lots of cool in Star Citizen which doesn't ever really get used. If you've got this like cool FPS system and you want to be able to board ships, you need to be able to disable ships to do that. And more generally, so people that are co-pilots or using stations and substations and all that sort of stuff, there needs to be more gameplay there. So CIG have talked a bit about this. Shields, systems, weapons and power management. That should allow for the need of a co-pilot in a larger ship. There needs to be enough going on with some of these MFDs and subsystems that a pilot can't just do it all on a larger system by themselves while piloting. Other gameplay aspects like signature management and stealth, I suppose, would be linked to this as well. Repair gameplay needs to be there, and that requires physicalized components, subcomponents as well potentially, so that players can do like quick fixes on systems to get them working again. I'd like to see much deeper gameplay for scanning and targeting. CIG have been working on scanning systems for sure, but the more in-depth that mechanic becomes, the more there is need of having someone to focus on scanning and targeting as part of their crewing, keeping enemies targeted, relaying the targets that the crew should be focusing on, performing scans on ships like cargo or life sign scans to get more info on them. There are a lot of ships that are going to have ship-specific systems like E-War suites. Some will have more in the way of cargo management, mining, salvage, drone operation, outpost building, refueling, and repair. Ships are all sort of like, they all have their own specific mechanics that need to be filled and have people doing that when on board a ship. I think the most interesting sort of like ship for me for MultiCrew will probably be the Endeavour, because it's science and farming. I want to see what sort of opportunities MultiCrew gameplay has there. And it's a lot about these sort of like gameplay loops, as well as just getting these ships doing the basics of being able to do combat and stuff together as well. We sort of like need it all to come together eventually. But with favourite ships, I also love the idea of running a brand new merchantman with shops on board, and the Orion strip mining efficiently out in an asteroid field, but also defending my Javelin from a boarding action. Boarding is actually something I think we should start to see a bit more of in 3.7 potentially, because of the Mantis and that quantum enforcement gameplay pulling people out of quantum travel. But I do also think we need physicalized components so that we can disable ships before we'll start to see it properly. Crews trying to defend from borders, get to escape pods, or repair a ship while under fire is very exciting, but requires a lot of balance to get right, and obviously they need to get the netcode in a good state so that you can have people running around ships. One of the other major balances and counterpoints to the complexity of mechanics that we could potentially have is that some of these mechanics need to be fully accessible by a single-seater ship and single pilot to be able to do well. So you can't just go, well, you can't do any of these scanning or any of these basic functions in a single-seater ship while you're in combat because it's too complex. So bear in mind, some mechanics can't be too complex or have too much meat to them. CIG have also talked about security stations on ships, so potentially these would have access to internal turrets, cameras, door control, airlock control, and more on certain ships. They have also talked about a permission system that they're planning that allows for your crew to have permissions set to them to allow them to use certain systems, MFDs, rooms, doors, stations. This means you could effectively assign someone as a gunner or as an officer. If you're parting with someone that you haven't worked with before, you can give them appropriate permissions, but not give them full run of your ship. You can just allow them access to the cargo bay, things like that. We need a lot of core systems to come together and be appropriately fleshed out to have a truly great multi-crew experience, and that's going to be different per ship. And we need the core systems for all ships, for like being able to relay information between people on a ship, be able to pilot a ship, be able to get that ship to where it needs to go, to be able to sort of like man all the stations, man the weaponry. And there's still lots of questions that haven't been answered, like if I log off in a ship and it's destroyed, but when I log back on, what happens? I assume you would actually, there would be some form of actual log you could read to say what happened, and you would wake up in an escape pod or a hospital. But what if I log back on a Javelin and I'm the only crewman on that Javelin, and I'm not the owner, and I'm the only person online? Can I run around the ship? It's clear to me that multi-crew and co-op gameplay is a core pillar of Star Citizen, and the community are going to be deeply involved in chiseling it, hopefully into something great. I would expect that a lot of this to start coming together in 2020. 4.0 having the expanded pilot and gunner roles, 3.9 having NPC healing, which I'm assuming is going to allow you to actually heal other people that are not just NPCs, but are players as well. 3.9 also has an accounting app for your Mobiglass, which I suspect will allow you to transfer funds directly to other players. At least that's what I'm hoping it allows you to do. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities for multi-crew, and the game is getting more and more meat to its bones, and it just needs to get multi-crew right, and it needs to start getting it in the game by really the end of next year. We need to have some good, solid systems for multi-crew experiences. I mean, we need more and more now, obviously from patch to patch. It's a pillar of Star Citizen. It's incredibly important, but we need to start having all of those at least core systems coming together in 2020, in my opinion. But what do you think we're going to get from multi-crew? Do you think bringing other ships is going to be almost always a better option than having a crewman crewing a turret? Do you think running costs of ships will cause multi-crew ships to be more affordable than bringing lots of small ships? Or do you think there's going to be other restrictions that make multi-crew ships much more appealing, like operating range and that sort of stuff? What other multi-crew gameplay do you think we might see in the future? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For October, it's an Anvil Carrack Explorer ship that should hopefully be flyable in Alpha 3.8 at the end of the year. Just comment on any of my videos made during October to be in for a chance to win that. There's an Azatec giveaway as well. They make cool CPU coolers. See what I did there? And at the moment, they're giving away 8 of these lovely CPU coolers with my logo on. So there's a lot of BoredGamer branded ones. I'll put a link down below for that separate giveaway too. I am also shilling for NordVPN and Shadow gaming PCs. So use the code BoredGamer for discounts there. NordVPN. In a world of censorship and privacy issues, VPNs allow you to browse the net and play games in more safety. NordVPN has many benefits over free VPNs, and that's why I shill for it. Some of you also might be interested in shadow cloud gaming stuff. This allows you an alternative to sort of like buying and maintaining your own gaming PC. You can stream a custom Windows 10 environment to devices like your phone, a laptop, or a crappier, lesser PC, and bam, it's fantastically powerful, and it's maintained, and hardware is regularly updated for you. It's a fantastic service, Shadow. Cloud gaming certainly has quite a big future ahead of it. If you'd like to further support my channel, please consider subscribing, sharing this video, ringing the YouTube bell so you get notifications when a video goes live. This is a channel that is funded by the community via donations, Patreon members, YouTube members, and anyone else that wants to get involved with comments and helping. Thank you to everyone that goes the extra mile. Take care, and I will see you in the verse.